So I need to finish welding these pipes up, top and bottom. I need to take just a tiny bit off of the lip. The pipe protrudes just slightly. This is the O2 sensor bung that I need to weld into the pipe. It has a little necked area right there. Some of them don't have that recessed piece and they just are curved to fit the pipe. Doesn't matter which version you have, you got to drill the hole. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole right here, and then I'm going to use a step bit to drill it out until this fits. I think it's going to be a 7/8 hole, but I'll check after I start getting close on each step. So that's 3/4. I gotta go one more step, which is 7/8. That fits in there nice and snug. Now I'll just have to weld a bead around that. Before I do that, I'm gonna weld these beads, and then we can put this pipe back in there. So I got the exhaust all welded up and installed. The only thing I haven't welded is that rear bracket because I want to run the engine first and make sure the exhaust isn't gonna run into anything, the frame or the body, rattle against stuff. I did get the O2 sensors in, so let's go underneath and take a look. So we got the O2 sensor in, the flanges all welded up, tightened down. We got our joints welded. I've got clamps on the mufflers. I haven't tack welded the joints yet, just in case I need a little wiggle room. We got this hanger built. I didn't build the one for the other side yet until I get my frame bracket. As you can see, we're close in places, but we still have at least a 1/2 inch. Now, they recommended a 1/2 inch to space on the coil spring. I chose to go a little narrower on the driver's side. And that's because I'm hanging it in the air right now. On the passenger side, I have about a 1/2 inch. I may give it a little bit more before I weld that last bracket on. And the reason for that is the track bar. So you can see the track bar right here. When the suspension flexes, it's going to drop to one side. Since I have the vehicle up in the air, it's going to pull that axle because that bar is not parallel to the ground. It's at an angle, so it's going to swing the axle towards the driver's side. So when I put this back on the ground, I'm going to gain a little bit of clearance over here, and I'm going to lose a little clearance over here. So definitely before I weld that last bracket on there, I want to put it on the ground, look underneath, make sure everything's going to clear, run the engine, let the exhaust warm up, cool down, make sure it's not going to rub against places. On some vehicles, the exhaust is so close to stuff that they rattle when they're cold. And then as soon as they warm up, they quit. Or it's the other way around. They're fine when they're cold, and then when they warm up, they start rattling. I have a little bit of clearance around this track bar bracket. It shouldn't be a problem because the exhaust, if it swings at all, will only move in and out. It shouldn't go up and down much. And then once I get the frame bracket over here for this side, then I'll weld the tab onto this hanger, get that all squared away. I got everything pretty tight, but if I loosen it up, I could still wiggle that pipe around if I need to. So we're one step closer to being done. We still got a long ways to go. I think one of the next things I'm going to tackle is the radiator. I do have the radiator here. It is supposed to be a direct fit bolt-in aluminum performance radiator with cooling fans. So I'll get that mounted in there, and then I will find out if the radiator hoses that I ordered for it will fit. If not, I'll have to make something work. We can also hook up the heater core at that time. One thing I'm not sure about is if this water pump flows too much coolant for the factory heater core. Certain vehicles, if the water pump puts out too much volume, you will hear like a swishing, or you'll hear, sounds like a toilet flushing all the time through the heater core. So if that's the case, when we get this up and running, we may have to put a restrictor into that heater hose. A lot of the factory Ford vehicles have a restrictor in the hose already because they had the same issue. If you want to see more videos like this or the rest of this project, go ahead and subscribe, click the bell. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. So after getting all this stuff in here and looking at it, there's one thing I did forget about, and that's the shift linkage. The steering column setup that we're going to be running is probably going to run a shifter rod instead of a shift cable. So that rod will go from that lever. Actually, there might be a different lever we have to get, but then it has to go at an angle up to the steering column. So hopefully it'll clear the O2 sensor. Not sure at this point. Won't know until we get the rest of the parts. If it doesn't clear, I may have to either move that O2 sensor bung or install an additional one and cap that one off. There's also a slight chance that I can build the rod a little bit different, put a little bend in it just to get around that O2 sensor. Hopefully it won't be an issue. We'll find out later on down the road.